Hello.
Hello, good afternoon, ma'am.
Namaste, namaste. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And can you see my screen properly?
Yeah, it's
Uh,
visible.
it's visible, and you just
Hello,
see this.
Swati ji.
Namaste. Yeah. And you just see the screen, right? And
Yeah.
not the sticky notes. Yeah. Everything is visible. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
I'm
yes.
just going to check once moving the slide.
Everything is
And
visible. We are just looking for the participants.
yeah. We will. I just wanted to check that the slides are moving correctly. The 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah. They're moving, right?
Yeah,
Perfect.
it is.
Okay, just I didn't want any glitch
Yes.
once we started. Yeah, yeah. We can wait for the others to join. I just wanted to check everything. No worries.
Okay, okay. Sure. We'll start at 3:30. Yes.
Yep, no worries. Take care.
अपराजिता चेक करने दो स्कूटी। पता नहीं अवीसा खान, प्रगति यादव, गोपी, दृष्टि।
Miss Swati Dave, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
Actually, due to some technical thing, we need to put the speaker and the moderator in the same screen. So for some time, we will just remove your PPT. You can just put that back on. So
So
nothing
I'll
will
just put,
change.
yeah,
Only
I'll
for
just
the
stop share. I'll stop sharing. Is
no
that what?
you no, they'll do it by themselves, I think. I just
Okay.
received it.
Yeah,
So
okay. No
you can
worries.
put that back on. It's only for because we need to take a screenshot as a proof for the session also. So we need uh, you to be visible instead of the PPT for some time.
Okay.
Ma'am, you're requested to just stop sharing the screen. Then
Okay.
only they can put you in the
Yeah.
spotlight.
Okay. Oh, no worries.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
So in another 2 minutes, we'll start. It's 3:28 now.
Yep.
We'll wait for 2 more minutes and then we can start with the session. Uh, it's time. Should we start?
We can, if you all are ready. I'm okay.
We have 67 participants so far with us. We'll start because we just want to be on time.
Yep, definitely. And how much time do I have? 30 minutes?
Half an hour. Half an hour. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Brothati
And
ma'am, your mic is off. Yeah. Okay.
just let me know when it's like 25
Yeah.
minutes or something so that I don't keep continuing
Yeah,
talking.
sure. I will let you know.
Thank you.
So let's start. So wishing good afternoon to all present here in the technical session number 6 on the day 2 of Equinox 2024. Today, as a speaker, we have with us Ms. Swati Dave. We welcome you, ma'am, and it's a privilege to have you here with us. Ms. Swati Dave is the founder and CEO of the Institute of Advancement of Vedic Mathematics, a global charitable organization registered in the UK. Ms. Dave is an educator and a project management consultant with over 30 years of experience in the field of civil engineering, education, e-learning, and training. Her explorations of ancient Indian mathematics rekindled the educator within her and drove her to create awareness of this amazing system on an international platform. She has conducted Vedic mathematics workshops and training programs for students as well as teachers of all the grade levels in India, Europe, Philippines, South Africa, Lebanon, Egypt, and the USA. In this session, she will talk to us on the topic of mathematical practices in the regional language schools of pre-colonial India and give us a closer look at the influence of culture and social order on the curriculum adopted in these schools. The talk will focus on the Tinnai education in Tamil Nadu, South India. So once again, I welcome you, ma'am, and the session is all yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Namaste, everyone, and good morning from Boston. I know it's late for you guys, but it's very early morning for me. Thank you for your patience and thank you for joining with me today. Just give me 1 minute to share my screen. Is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Perfect. So again, thank you everyone for joining with me for this talk on mathematical practices in the regional language schools of pre-colonial India. As was evident from my introduction, because of my interest in mathematics, I do have a deep interest in understanding the ancient Indian mathematics and how what we're doing today and kind of relating it to the current practices. And is there any way or what can we do to bring that ancient Indian wisdom back today? It's not an easy task, and it's still in the very early stages of explorations. When we talk about ancient Indian mathematics, what definitely comes to our mind is the Sanskrit scholar. The study has been traditionally focused around the explorations of mathematical work in Sanskrit by the great mathematicians like Aryabhatta, Brahmagupta, Bhaskaracharya, Varahamira, Madhava, Pingala, to name a few. So basically what I'm trying to say here is when we talk about ancient mathematics, we do talk about all their works in Sanskrit. And because we all know that Sanskrit was the chief medium of instructions for the pan-India, yeah. And there has been extensive research conducted in the scholarship of these great mathematicians, which has been traditionally written in Sanskrit language. However, I wouldn't say ignored, but there has been less focus on vernacular mathematics or mathematics in regional languages. In reality, at that same time, when the Sanskrit scholarship was being constructed or written or developed, there did exist parallel streams of intellectual communication in other languages also. And the transfer from the great tradition, I would call the Sanskrit as this great tradition, to the traditional languages was not always one-sided. It was a give and take process. And this process has still not been, like the study has not been extensive enough to map it correctly. However, we can very safely say that, and when I say we, S.R. Sarma, who has been a great scholar in studying these regional practices, according to him, what he says is the mathematical ideas were systemized in Sanskrit manuals, whereas the broader dissemination took place in the regional languages. Because Sanskrit was not studied or known by most of the people, what happened was many people, many other scholars took this original Sanskrit work, translated into regional languages, and this is how it got disseminated with the local population. Again, not always it was translation. Sometimes there was a new scholarship being constructed at local levels also. Some of them, to name a very few here, was Kaithali Anka, which was written in Assamese. Shubhankari is a very beautiful indigenous tradition in Bengali. And this third book, which is Pavluru, which was translated from Bhaskaracharya's Lilavati in Telugu. But the point to be noted was when the scholars translated the Sanskrit into regional languages, They did give a context to the local traditions. It was customized to the need of the local community. So what we're going to do today is, now this scholarship is being constructed. People are writing books, people are doing new researches, inventing new things. Now there has to be a system by which the scholarship is now disseminated in the community, right? So what we're going to do is, we're going to attempt to reconstruct a history of mathematics education in India during the 18th and 19th century through the formal education, with the focus on a particular region, which was Tamil Nadu in South India. We all know that India had a very rich and widespread culture of institutional education during pre-colonial era, both for elementary and as well as higher branches of learning. The elementary institutions or the regional institutions were called as pathshalas. The higher institutions of learning were known as tolls or gurukuls, and there were also madrasas, which were the seats of Arabic learning. My focus today is going to be on the elementary education, and again, in a particular region, which is Tamil Nadu in South India. Before we start looking, or before we get into the journey or take us back into the memory of that Tinnai school's beautiful structure, I want to pause a little and thank Dharampalji for doing this extensive research on these institutions in the 18th and 19th century and giving to us this book, The Beautiful Tree. And why? And in this book, he has given with statistics the kind of institutions, and the data is mind-boggling to see the kind of institutions that existed in pre-colonial era. The introduction to that book is by Mahatma Gandhi ji, and it has been taken from his famous speech, which he gave on Tuesday in October 1931 in Chatham House in London. It's a big speech where he talks about the state where India was at that time. But what interests me is his focus on the local and the indigenous education, which he talks to the people in that speech. He says that, I say without fear of my figures being challenged successfully that today, India is more illiterate than it was 50 or 100 years ago. And so is Burma, because the British administrators, when they came to India, instead of taking hold of things as they were, began to root them out. They scratched the soil and began to look at the root and left the root like that, and the beautiful tree perished. One such beautiful tree that perished through the colonization was the Tinnai schools. So now we get into our focus of the topic, which is the Tinnai schools. Tinnai means veranda, and they were the local elementary schools or pathshalas in the state of Tamil Nadu in South India during the pre-colonial and colonial times, and that also survived till early 20th century. When did the Tinnai school system start? Antiquity is really not known, but there have been accounts of Tinnai schools in some of the records of European travelers. The existence of Tinnai schools first time showed up in the Minutes on Education, a survey report on indigenous schools ordered by the British East India Company under the governorship of Thomas Munro in 1822. Here again, I would want to take a pause, thank Dr. Senthil Babu, who is a researcher in the French Institute of Pondicherry, who has done extensive research on Tinnai schools. My talk today is a result of studying his research. He's written in numerous papers, done many talks, and there are secondary research papers also, but I believe the secondary research papers are also taken mostly from the primary source of Senthil Babu. And the reason why we have to kind of rely, or we have to kind of study this through Senthil Babu is because, unfortunately, the primary source materials are still, most of it is untranslated from Tamil. And so for the poor people like me who do not speak Tamil or understand Tamil, the information available in English is limited to his research. So I'm an educator. I have worked in the field of education in India and in the US. And what I have done here is through all the research in Tinnai about what that school was, what did they teach, and again, I'm focusing only on the math curriculum today. I have tried to create a system, or I have tried to put it into the framework as the schools are today. So today, when we open a website of any schools, what do we see? What do we look for? We look for what is the school about? What is the curriculum? Who is the school council? What is the fee structure? What are the admission criteria? So I've tried to create the analogical system based on these parameters. For us, I mean, when I say for us, also for me, to understand the system better in terms of today's context. So if I have to talk about Tinnai schools, what was it about? So we know there were local elementary schools in Tamil Nadu in South India. Where were the schools held? They were held in, so as we know, Tinnai means veranda, and they were held in front of verandas of houses that usually belonged to prominent notables or school teachers. The schools were usually run by a single teacher, typically male, and every village or group of villages had one Tinnai school where the children would be within walking distance of 7 to 8 miles. What were the core values of Tinnai schools? The primary goal was to get children ready for the adulthood. Here, the basic, if we again have to compare it to the contemporary education system, what was taught in this Pathshala or in Tinnai school was the 3 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic. And the fundamental aim was to enable the children to become competent. And if the students, or if they wanted to study further, they would then go to the higher education system. But if you studied for 5 to 7 years, whatever the duration was in the Pathshalas, you were ready to either take the trade of your family, to practice your own trade. It did give you the necessary skills to be an adult in the society. What was the admission criteria? Local boys at the age of 5 from upper and middle class groups were eligible for admissions. The period of instruction would vary between 7 to 8 years. Again, as with most of the information that is available to you, this data is little fluid. You may read somewhere that the kids joined at the age of 6, 7, or they took 5 to 8 years. But this is general understanding is the young boys joined the school. They were in the Pathshalas for approximately 7 to 8 years. Fees. Fees varied from school to school and village to village. Families of the children paid straight to the teacher in cash and in kind on periodic basis. The teacher was paid on specific occasion of religious significance and during particular stages of progress made in the curriculum. And sometimes, as I said, in kind, they would also, if I don't have money or if my family doesn't have money, I would work on agricultural land or work with my guru or work with at the house of the teacher to repay my fees. Who taught? We saw that it was a single teacher, but who were these teachers? Can you and I become a teacher? Maybe, I don't know. The Tinnai teachers were Panchangis, Brahmanas who knew the almanac, Pantarams, non-Brahmin priests, Kanakkan, accountant or bookkeeper, and Puranic reciters. By the first quarter of 19th century, they also included scribes and accountants who could not get clerical jobs in company offices, as well as converts educated by Protestant missionaries. You have to remember that this was a single teacher school, so the scholarship of the teachers was very important. The teacher brought to school what they knew. So the more learned the teacher, the more would be the education in the schools. Who is the school council? There was no formal governing body that was responsible for the day-to-day functioning of the schools. The community actively participated or gave input to what was taught depending on the societal needs at local level. Again, we see that the teacher was a single teacher. They could decide what needs to be taught in the school, or they would be teaching what they know to the school, to the students. But the community did give their input as to what is more needed for the community at that local level. What was the class structure? The students were grouped according to their level of understanding of language and mathematics and not age. Classes did not have a minimum or maximum number of students, and they did have a system of monitor. The teacher would appoint a brighter senior student from the class as a monitor who would receive direct instruction from the teacher and instruct batches of other children in the daily routine. What was taught? Tamil alphabets and elementary language lessons, Tamil numerals and tables, elementary Tamil grammar, Tamil calendar and dictionaries, ballads, moral lessons. Forms of letter writing and elementary bookkeeping related to agriculture and accounts. But what we're going to look into today is more focusing on what was taught in the curriculum of math. What did the typical day look like? This is the excerpt I found from a Tamil book written by Dr. U.V. Swaminathan Iyer. And in that, he has kind of reconstructed for us what the typical day for a student looked like. They would go to the school or the teacher's house at early as 5 a.m. They would start by reciting the math or the Tamil alphabets, and the teacher would be listening to that. At around 6 a.m., they would stop doing that. They would go to the nearby river, take bath, recite the shlokas, mantras, and then they would, what was very important was they would then bring in sand from the river bank, because the students wrote on sand. They studied by writing on sand, and only when they were proficient enough were they allowed to write on the palm manuscript. And then at around noon, they went back to their home. 3 o'clock, they come back. They would stay with the teacher another 7 till around 7, and then they would get their homework. So if you really put that into a morning session, afternoon session, and the thing. So morning sessions were mostly dedicated to memorizing and practicing the various tables. Afternoon sessions were teacher-led class, were supplying meanings for words. Word problems were given, puzzles were given, which was, again, those word problems were not something that we see today, that I went and brought 5 dozens of bananas or something. The word problems were very much related to the context of the local community. After school, before the school, more problems would be given as in homework. And then the problem solving would happen outside of the school with the help of elders and the community. And the next morning, rinse and repeat. The answers were discussed, and again, they would start by memorizing. This was look like a typical day for a student.
பொன்னிலக்கம்.
Okay, now curriculum framework for mathematics. I'm going to play that again. I've asked my very dear friend to give me the audio clips for the pronunciation of this very typical Tamil words because I didn't want to mispronounce them.
பொன்னிலக்கம்.
So the curriculum framework for mathematics, they would study a number of tables. One was Ponnilakam, which was an elementary number series.
நெல்லிலக்கம் செவிடு.
Nallilakam was primers that dealt with volumetric or cubic questions.
எண்சுவடி multiplication.
They studied tons of multiplication tables.
குழிமாற்று.
Then they studied table of squares.
வருடப்பிறப்பு or வருஷப்பிறப்பு, the birth of a year.
They did additional learning.
கணித நூல்.
And we will see what this are
கணக்கதிகாரம்.
in details. Yeah. And the curriculum blended language and number learning at the same time.
பொன்னிலக்கம்.
So Ponnilakam was the elementary. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Pon means gold and Ilakam is number, please. Now Ponnilakam also had 3 layers to it.
பேர் இலக்கம். கீழ்வாய் இலக்கம். சிற்றெண்.
So first is starting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whole numbers, ordinal numbers. Then studying the tables or the fractions in units of 1 by 320. And then studying the series of fractions consisting of 1 3/20th part of 1 3 by 20. We cannot even fathom the way they learned all these things. Today, even knowing multiplication table is an Herculean task for the young kids. How did they teach them? Now they had to learn all these number series. How did they teach them? So monitor pronounced the numbers which student would recite. Monitor then introduced the graphic symbol. The students had to recognize the graphic symbol, associate the symbol with number name, recite the number name, and write it on sand, all in unison. They would also help the hands of the beginners. Each number from all the primers would be made familiar. And primers were not textbook, but functioned like a manual. And then each student would create their own manual. It was all based on recollective memory and not rote learning. It was all active listening, recollection. The students didn't have the textbooks. The students, at the end of their graduation or the end of the learning, they would create their own manuals.
பேர்
I will
இலக்கம்.
just very quickly look what was taught in each one. So Perilakam, all the numbers 1 to 100 was taught. And these were represented only by 12 letters. 1 to 10 had one system, the different letters, 100 and 1000.
கீழ்வாய்
As
இலக்கம்.
I said, the fraction series, and then beginning with 1 3/20th part, and then successively adding 1 by 3/20th up till 1. And these now were this Munitiri Kani. They were not some random names. They were the units of land measures. Ma is the unit of land and gold measures. And once they did the Skilwai Lakam till 2, then they would go back to the Perilakam series of whole numbers.
சிற்றெண்.
Now here, this again start with 1 by 320, but instead of adding, now you're multiplying 1 3/20th at each step.
நெல்லிலக்கம் செவிடு.
Now Nellilakam, nail means paddy, and Ilakam again means number, please. So here this was the primer that dealt with volumetric or cubic measures, which is very important for the farming community, agriculture community.
எண்சுவடி multiplication.
And they also had series of multiplication tables. So the first one was of whole numbers, like 1 times 1 is 1 or 1 times 2 is 2. Those were the first ones. The next one was dealing with multiplication of whole numbers with fractions, right? So now you're dealing with multiplying the whole numbers with each of the fractions, yeah? And the third one was where you're dealing with fractions, Monilakka Ponilakka multiplied with Ponilakka. Then you have whole numbers multiplied with Nelilakkam series. And then you have fractions multiplied by each one in the Nelilakkam. This is just beyond us to understand how the students would know all these things, right?
Kurimatu.
Now, this didn't end up there. And the last section in the learning was learning of table of squares, which was Kurimatu. In that also, they would learn one to large measures and smaller measures.
Perunguri, Siru Kuri.
And they also had verses as to how to find the squares of a number. And the students were expected to know the squares from 1 to 3, 1 to 10, and then they would eventually find it in this way. This is one of the way to find for 11 by 11, and you have an example of 17. Similarly, for the fractions, how do you find the square of a fraction? Was again shown here. Sorry, I'll just keep it for 1 second, just to see how they would do it. This is not a lesson in maths. It's just for us to understand how they learned what they learned.
Varudapirappu or Varshapirappu, the birth of a year.
Now they learned all those primer, kind of, they had it in their memory, all those primer series we talked about. Besides that, they also learned all these things, the 4 yugas, the 60 years, 12 months, 15 tithis, 7 days of a week, everything. But again, what are we thinking about? Do we think that, oh, this is one more thing that they are memorizing? Senthil Babu gives us a rationale. Maybe this was not just memorizing, but there was a distinct possibility that teacher would then create a story around it, folklore around it, talk about it in the terms of worldly affairs when they're teaching this. So in all, just look at the number of primers that they would know by the end of their learning years, right? And this is just, I'm talking about the very minimum number. To the point that there was this Portuguese traveler who says that in 1623, and this is one of the account, as we talked about, that in their accounts, you could see that. And here he just says that this is so strange to see these 4 kids writing in sand and reciting the tables and knowing everything about what they're talking about. And after they completed the memorizing, knowing it, only then they would translate that, or they would then scribe it on into the palm manuscripts.
Kanakadigaram.
Now, besides that, they also had beautiful books called Kanakatikaram. It was a 15th century text of mathematics in Tamil, written by Kari Nayanar. And typically, this book consists of rules of procedures for computations. They had 6 different sections: land, gold, grain, solid stones, volumetric measures, and general sections.
Kanida
There was
Nool.
another treatise in mathematics that they would look into. This was called Kanida Nool. It had verses to calculate different things, also had certain puzzles, which were again, everything had to be in context of the regional needs or the local needs of the people. So what did Tinnai pedagogy look like? That was learning by listening, memorizing, mental mathematics, localized curriculum, oral repetition, recall, all the buzzwords today, right? We talk about customizing, we talk about mental math, we talk about learning by listening. And this very organically happened through this indigenous education system prevailing in a corner of India. Language was a very significant factor in the learning of mathematical operations. Now we are trying to conduct literacy and numeracy, but again, this was such a normal thing to happen in there. Language learning and number learning, integral part. Yeah. Ye sound was the signal to recognize addition, and then there was a ye, another absence of ye is the recognizing as multiplication. And the structural and the curricular practices in mathematics in Tinnai schools are an exemplar of highly sophisticated framework that characterize powerful learning environments in clear and actionable ways with a focus on the needs of the local community. I hope to continue the exploration and to capture similar pre-colonial and colonial indigenous methodologies to imagine a path towards decolonizing India's current system of education. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I did go over 2 minutes, but hope that's okay. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Any questions? One request for all the participants. If you have any questions, please come up. And also there's a feedback form in the chat box. Kindly fill it.
Swati ji, it was indeed a very interesting talk. In fact, I had heard a little bit about it in another conference, and today it was really very enlightening to, listen to the details about the Tinnai school. And I just wanted to know, what is the significance of that, the number 320? Because I was seeing that mostly it is 1 by 320, and then what is the significance? Because I'm not from mathematics, maybe it might be,
It's
you know.
yeah, I get that question always is what's the significance, but if you look at and I haven't been able to really come up with a good answer, except that I think it was one of like what we say as one of 320th was how the Tamil numerals were constructed, like how we say Ada, Pono, Sawa, right? Like, so one of that was 1 upon 320th, and that was used as the base for most of the other primers. That's my conclusion, but it may or may not be the truth, but that's where I have kind of, because if you look at the Tamil numerals, the way they're written, they are written in the terms of 1 by 320. So, they may have like adha ka double is 1, ek ka double is like do, char, something like that, or what we say sawa, pono, those were those local words where the significance could be that 1 upon 320.
Because I was also wondering, this seems to be quite a sophisticated system of learning. So was it just due to the colonial rule that this came to an end, or what might have been the reason for the decline?
It was mostly due to early 1900th century when the Britishers founded the schools, and now these are vernacular schools, but now they want to bring English education, right? So how do you systematically kill the vernacular education systems? By not funding it, right? Or by giving jobs to the people from English medium schools. And slowly and clearly the need for, so this systematically killed the need for such schools by either defunding them, not funding them enough, by giving more. So people, the principals, the teachers were lured to teach in English medium schools. Print came in. Now they wanted to promote printed books. So the recollection gone in. Now they started printing this Anchuati. Now, so we were talking about listening and recollection, right? And now you have textbooks where it now slowly moves into rote learning. So you see how they changed the pedagogy from active listening and this, and now India is blamed for rote learning. We were never into that. We were into active listening and recollection. But because of the print books, now they want to sell the books. So what will they do? They'll make you buy the books. They'll make you read the books. So slowly and surely, around 1930s, 40s, slowly and steadily, this existence of this, they had to close these local schools. It wasn't enough for them to survive financially, or the number of students. Everybody was looking for jobs and everything, right? So, but again, the question comes is, how do we decolonize it? Are there factors from there what we can take and bring it into the current education system?
Also, like there's a lot of work being done on Vedic mathematics, but it's similar, to bring it back. And even in our schools, also, we are seeing, even in our curriculum, also, they have become a part of it. So, are there any efforts going on to bring, all these regional learnings again into the system of learning?
Definitely. So the whole NEP policy by the government, where we are promoting Indian knowledge systems, and I know that we did, and when there is, my institute did two programs for what you call as value-based education, whatever those electives are nowadays required in the school, in the colleges, where they can select their electives. We did two for Hindu college. So definitely there is a systematic effort being done by the government and people to at least create the awareness of these beautiful systems that existed and the knowledge that existed back to our students, to bring that pride back. Like, it's not about just today when you hear about this, and when all over we say that Indians are only into rote learning, unko jitna padhaya utna hi aata, like, and then where we started and why we are here. So we need to understand why we are here, correct? So definitely the effort is being done. It's slow, but it's steady.
Thank you, ma'am. And any other questions?
I can see some questions here. I don't know. Have you found any in other parts of India as well? Yes, definitely, as I said. I have been, the plan for today was also talk about the Assamese education system, which is Kaithali Anka, which was done mostly by the merchants in that areas. But then I thought about that, just kind of giving you a glimpse of everything. Let me focus on one thing today. Maybe call me again. I'll talk about the other education system, right? Next time. There definitely was regional education system. The indigenous education system at the local level was very advanced and very beautiful systems, customized to the local needs. Again, you need to keep an understanding that the knowledge that the students gain in this pathshalas was very practical. It was meant for them to be adult and function in the society. It wasn't like required just because for the sake of gaining knowledge. Yeah.
Any more questions? So with this, we come to the end of the session. On behalf of Team Equinox and Metri College, I would like to extend our deepest thanks to Ms. Swati Dave for the insightful and inspiring talk you have shared with us. It was indeed an enlightening and a thought-provoking session. Your expertise and passion for Vedic mathematics have truly captivated us and provided us with a new perspective and understanding. The practical examples you shared made the complex concepts much more accessible and engaging. We appreciate the time and effort you invested in preparing such a comprehensive presentation. Thank you once again for taking the time to be with us today and for contributing to the success of this event. We are grateful for your willingness to share your knowledge and expertise with us. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And namaste, everybody. And
Namaste.
have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.